The man who married the little girl, if only they knew the orphan stepsister, a marriage she didn't understand. The village of Nicosia was peaceful on the surface but broken underneath. The fields were green, the sky was wide, and the sound of goats echoed gently in the distance. But behind the quiet charm, there were secrets buried deep, secrets like Zena's. Zena was just 12 years old when her stepfather, Bana, gave her away in marriage to an old man named Khalifa, a man feared and respected by everyone. He was a former warrior, now a rich landowner, known for his arrogance and the way people bowed before him. Zena's mother had died when she was very small. Her stepmother, Mama Jolly, never treated her like a daughter. She was a maid in the house, always cleaning, always silent. She had bruises on her hands, and sometimes her back, but no one dared to ask. Her stepmother said, "You are lucky to have a roof over your head." And so she believed it. One rainy evening, Zena was called to sit before a group of men in the compound. They were drinking palm wine. Her father, Bana, put his hand on her head and said with a drunken smile, "Khalifa has chosen you. You're a lucky girl. You'll be his wife now." Zena didn't know what that meant. She thought maybe she'd go to his house to help in the kitchen or fetch firewood. She had no idea she was being sold. The next day, she was dressed in a wrapper too big for her size, with beads in her hair and dust on her feet. Women ululated as if it was a celebration. But Zena's heart beat with confusion, not joy. She was taken to Khalifa's compound, a large house with metal gates and guards, far from her father's hut. That night, when the door closed behind her, she truly felt alone. And though she was now called a wife, she was treated like a pet, like a thing, not a person. Khalifa was rough, and his eyes were cold. Zena didn't understand the touches, the silence, the way her body no longer belonged to her, and she never smiled again. Years passed. By the time she turned 17, Zena had become a quiet, cold shadow of herself. She no longer looked like the innocent child she once was. Her face had hardened, her eyes rarely blinked. She cooked, she cleaned, and she slept alone in the same room with the same man who had stolen her childhood. But now, something inside her had changed. She had begun to understand what was done to her. And with understanding came something deeper, hatred. She hated Khalifa. She hated her father. She hated the way the women of the village had danced that day, celebrating her pain, but most of all, she hated herself, for not running, for not fighting. Yet, something was growing stronger than hatred. A fire, the fire within, and the brothers in chains. Zena woke before the sun, as always. The rooster hadn't crowed yet, but she was already at the firewood pit, lighting the morning fire. Her body moved like a machine, no emotion, no delay. She chopped yams, fetched water, swept the large compound, and prepared Khalifa's bitter leaf soup just as he liked it. But this morning, something was different. She didn't weep while cooking, she didn't tremble when she heard his cane tapping the ground. Zena had made a decision. A quiet one. She would never allow Khalifa to touch her again. Khalifa, now in his 50s, had become slower, but not softer. He still barked orders, still demanded obedience, still believed the world owed him everything. His compound was grand, but empty. His 2 sons barely spoke to him anymore, and no visitors stayed long. Power, Zena realized, was just fear in disguise, and fear was a dying god. The brothers Khalifa's 2 sons, Eno and Jawi, were the only people in that house who had eyes that blinked with regret. Eno was the older one, tall and careful with his words. Jawi, a few years younger, was the quieter one, always sketching with charcoal on broken bits of wood. They had watched Zena grow from a child into a woman under their father's roof, and they had said nothing, but they were not evil. Just trapped. The day Khalifa brought Zina home, Eno had whispered to his brother, "She's a child." "I know," Jawi had said, but neither dared speak beyond that. Khalifa was not a father. He was a king in his mind. And kings crushed rebellion before it could form. The brothers knew this too well. They had watched him beat a man near to death for asking too many questions about his land. They had seen him banish his own cousin from the village for daring to say, "This girl is too young." So Eno and Jawi became cowards, wrapped in privilege and silence, but now, something about Zina's eyes was waking them up. One night, Zina was sitting under the baobab tree near the edge of the compound, staring at the stars. Eno approached with a bowl of fresh papaya, something he hadn't done in years. "You haven't eaten today," he said softly. Zina didn't look at him. "I don't need your pity." "It's not pity," Eno replied. "It's shame." Zina turned, her face a storm. "Where was that shame 5 years ago?" Eno swallowed hard. "I was scared. You were comfortable." Silence stretched between them like a knife. Then Zina stood up. "You let your father ruin me. And now you bring me fruit? I'm sorry." "Your sorry doesn't change anything." She walked away. Eno stood there, holding the papaya, feeling its weight in hers. The return of a ghost. Meanwhile, far away from Nicosa, news was spreading. Bana, Zina's stepfather, was back. The man who had sold her like livestock had returned after disappearing for 3 years. Word had it that he had joined a rebel militia, stolen from them, and fled for his life. Now he sought safety in the only place he knew, home. Zina heard the rumors through the market women. At first, she laughed bitterly. Then she fell silent that he was coming back, the man who gave her to Khalifa for a bag of maize and a promise of debt relief, and she would face him. That night, she stared into the fire and whispered to herself, "I was a child, but now I am the storm." The fire cracked louder than usual. That it heard her. The orphan stepsister's secret. The sky was bruised with thick clouds when Bana returned to Nicosa. That he walked into the village with nothing but a torn bag and a broken smile. Time had punished him. His beard was wild, his eyes darted like a rat's, and his once proud voice now cracked like dried wood. Yet, when he entered the market square, some villagers greeted him. They had forgotten what he had done. Or perhaps, they had chosen to, but not Zina. The moment she heard he was back, something inside her snapped. She had been holding the pain in her chest for 5 long years, nursing it like a secret disease. But now it was rising, a wave of rage, betrayal, and truth. The meeting. Zina went to her old home, the small clay hut where Mama Jolly still lived. Her stepmother looked older too, but her bitterness had aged like sour palm wine. She sat outside peeling cassava, pretending Zina didn't exist. "I heard the dog came back," Zina said. Mama Jolly didn't flinch. "Your father is inside. Be careful with your tongue." "He's not my father," Zina replied coldly. "And you're not my mother. You both made sure of that." She walked inside. There he was. Bana sat on a mat, coughing from the dust, his body thin and bent like a question mark. When he saw Zina, he blinked hard. "Zina, my daughter." She stepped back. "Don't you call me that." He lowered his eyes. "I made mistakes. You sold me. I had no choice." "There's always a choice," she snapped. "And you chose Khalifa's coins over my life." He looked like he might cry, but Zina had none left to give him. Then she said something that froze him. "You didn't just sell me. You tried to erase me." He looked up, confused. "I know about her," Zena said. Mbana stiffened. I know about your real daughter. The one you abandoned before you married my mother. My stepsister. The one you never told anyone about. The room went dead silent. A hidden life. Zena had discovered it by accident, weeks ago. While cleaning one of Khalifa's old rooms, she found a torn letter, hidden in a box of old marriage papers. It was addressed to Mbana. In it, a woman from a distant village begged him to send money for their daughter, a daughter he had fathered before marrying Zena's mother. A daughter who was orphaned when her mother died in childbirth. Zena had tracked down a trader who confirmed the story. Yes, there was a girl. Lived with her aunt in Temba village. Her name was Sita. She looked just like you. That name had burned into Zena's soul. Sita, the forgotten stepsister. Left to starve while Mbana built a new family, and Zena realized something terrifying. She was not the only girl he had betrayed. Back in the room, Mbana broke into sobs. I was young. I didn't have anything. Her mother forced me to take responsibility. I couldn't. I just couldn't do both. So you chose to ruin us all? Zena hissed. You don't understand. No, she said, standing tall. You don't understand. You created orphans with your selfishness. You broke daughters like clay pots. But I'm done being broken. She turned to leave. You will never speak to me again. You are no father of mine. She stepped outside into the growing storm. Thunder growled overhead. The village watched her pass, not as a victim, but as a force, and from a distance, Ino and Jawi saw her too. Jawi whispered, she walks like a queen. No, Ino said. She walks like justice. The fall of a tyrant. The rain came with fury that night, tearing through the village of Nikosa like a long-held scream. Thunder cracked over the thatched rooftops, and water spilled through red earth like blood. But inside Khalifa's mansion-like compound, all was still, too still. Zena sat on the veranda, eyes fixed on the storm. Her mind was calmer than the skies. She had made up her mind. No more silence. No more obedience. No more pretending. She would no longer be his prisoner. Khalifa's wrath. Khalifa burst through the hallway, slamming his walking stick against the floor. His voice boomed like thunder, louder than the storm outside. Who gave you the right to leave the house without my permission? You went to see that drunk fool of a father again? Zena rose slowly, not flinching. Yes. I went to look into the face of the man who sold me. The same way I look at you. He paused, stunned. Zena had never spoken like this before. You forget your place, he growled. No, she said. I've finally remembered it. Then she stepped forward and did what no one had ever dared. She stood nose to nose with Khalifa. I was a child. You took everything from me. My voice. My body. My future. But not anymore. You're my wife. I was a child, she repeated, her voice sharp as lightning. You never had a wife. You had a victim. But I survived. And now, you will answer for what you've done. Justice rises. The next morning, Zena did something no woman in Nikosa had ever done before. She walked straight to the village square, stood before the elders, and spoke. She told them everything, how Khalifa married her when she was barely 12. How he used her like property. How her father sold her for debts. How her stepmother let it all happen. And how the village, the very people sitting before her, danced while it happened. Gasps echoed through the crowd, women covered their mouths, men looked at their feet, but Zena didn't blink. Then something unexpected happened. Ino and Jawi stepped forward. She's telling the truth, Ino said. Jawi added, we were boys then. We saw it. We said nothing. And that silence is our sin. The chief elder, a gray-bearded man known for his silence, stood slowly. The past cannot be changed. But justice can still live in the present. He pointed to the guards. Bring Khalifa. Within an hour, the man who ruled over others with fear was dragged into the square like a thief. His cane was gone. His pride, shattered. He stared at Zina, but this time, she was not afraid. Freedom. Khalifa was stripped of his title, his land seized, and he was banished from Nicosia, forever. Mbana, her stepfather, was also forced to repay the bride price and was publicly shamed. He left the village that same day, head bowed, heart hollow. Mama Jolly. She packed her things silently and vanished. Zina stood in the middle of the square, the sky now clear above her, the sun burning hot and bright. The village had never seen anything like her, a girl broken, beaten, forgotten, who rose like dawn and demanded to be heard. She went back to her room, packed her few belongings, and walked past Khalifa's compound without a glance. She had no idea where the road would lead her. But she knew this much: she was no longer anyone's daughter. And no longer anyone's wife, she was her own woman now.